total darkness. 100 feet underwater, at the bottom of the freezing Atlantic Ocean. Imagine being trapped in a bubble of air no larger than a small bathroom. You are freezing. You are stripped down to your underwear. The water around your waist is slowly rising, millimeter by millimeter. You have no food, no fresh water, and worst of all, you are completely alone, except for the bodies of your friends floating in the dark corridor just outside your door. Harrison Okene has been sitting in this exact nightmare for 60 hours. He is waiting to die. The oxygen is running out, replaced by toxic carbon dioxide with every breath he takes. The surface world has already held a funeral for him. He doesn't know it yet, but he is about to become the center of one of the most terrifying, miraculous, and medically impossible survival stories ever recorded on human camera. To understand how Harrison ended up in this underwater tomb, we have to go back to May 26, 2013. Harrison Okene is 29 years old. He's a Nigerian cook working aboard the Jascon 4. The Jascon 4 is a massive, heavy-duty tugboat operating off the treacherous coast of Nigeria. Its job is to stabilize massive oil tankers in the turbulent waters of the Atlantic. It's grueling, dangerous work, but Harrison is the heart of the ship. As the cook, he feeds the 11 other crew members. He knows their stories, their families, their favorite meals. It's 4:30 in the morning. The ocean is violently angry today. Massive swells are tossing the heavy tugboat around like a plastic toy. Harrison wakes up early, as cooks always do. He leaves his bunk and walks down the narrow metal corridors of the ship. He steps into the bathroom. He locks the heavy metal door behind him. That simple action, locking the door, is the first link in a chain of events that will put him through absolute hell. Because at that exact moment, the ocean decides it has had enough of the Jascon 4. A massive rogue wave, towering like a wall of solid concrete, slams into the side of the tugboat. The Jascon 4 doesn't just rock, it flips, completely upside down. Inside the bathroom, Harrison's world is instantly inverted. The floor becomes the ceiling, the toilet is above his head. And then, the true horror begins. The water. It doesn't just leak in, it explodes through the vents and doorways with the force of a freight train. The ocean is reclaiming the ship. Harrison is thrown against the steel walls in the pitch black. The emergency lights short out. He is completely blind. The ship begins to sink, fast. It's plunging 100 feet down to the freezing bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Imagine the panic. You are in a metal box, upside down, sinking, and the water is rapidly filling the room. Harrison forces the heavy bathroom door open against the pressure of the rushing water. He steps out into the corridor. He hears the screams of his crewmates, the men he cooked for just hours ago. But the screams are quickly silenced as the ocean swallows them one by one. 11 men drown in the dark. Harrison is swept by the violent current down a narrow hallway. He is desperately gasping for air in the shrinking pockets of oxygen near the ceiling, which is actually the floor of the ship. By a stroke of pure blind luck, the water pushes him into the engineer's office. And then, the ship hits the ocean floor with a violent, terrifying thud. It settles deep into the mud. The rushing water stops. The violent shaking stops. Harrison is alive, but he is trapped. He is standing in freezing water up to his chest. But above the water line, there is an air pocket. It's about 4 feet high. Physics dictates that as a ship sinks, water floods in and pushes the air out. But because the Jascon 4 flipped upside down so quickly, The air inside this specific room had nowhere to escape. The water pressure from the outside compressed the air, locking it in place. It's a miraculous anomaly of physics. But for Harrison, it's not a miracle. It's a torture chamber. Now begins the waiting. The slow, agonizing psychological decay. Harrison is wearing nothing but his boxer shorts. The water temperature at the bottom of the Atlantic is bone-chillingly cold. It is actively stealing the heat from his core. Hypothermia is creeping in. To survive the cold, he manages to feel around in the dark. He finds a few tools and some floating wall panels. He stacks them up to create a makeshift platform, elevating his upper body out of the freezing water. But the darkness is absolute. It is a thick, suffocating blackness that plays tricks on your mind. If you open your eyes or close them, there is no difference. Hours pass. Thirst sets in. The human body can only survive about 3 days without water. Harrison is surrounded by millions of gallons of it, but it's toxic, salty ocean water. Drinking it would only accelerate his death. But as he searches the floating debris in the pitch black, his hand brushes against something metallic. A cylinder. It's a single can of Coca-Cola. This single can of soda is the only hydration he will have for the next 3 days. But dehydration and hypothermia are only physical threats. The psychological horror is far worse, because Harrison is not alone. The ship is open to the ocean, and the ocean is full of scavengers. In the suffocating silence of his dark bubble, Harrison begins to hear sounds. Splashing, tearing, the distinct sound of large fish and sharks swimming through the flooded corridors of the ship. They have found the bodies of his 11 crewmates. Harrison sits on his makeshift raft in the pitch black, listening to the terrifying sounds of sea creatures feeding on his friends just a few feet away. He knows that if he slips into the water, if he makes a loud noise, they might find him next. He wants to cry, but he knows tears will dehydrate him faster. He wants to sleep, but he knows if he loses consciousness, he will slip off his raft, fall into the water, and drown. So he stays awake. For 60 hours. He prays. He calls out to God. He bargains with the universe. As the hours turn into days, the oxygen in his tiny bubble begins to deplete. The air grows heavy and toxic. The carbon dioxide is making him dizzy, lethargic, confused. By the morning of the 3rd day, Harrison Okene accepts his fate. He stops shivering. His mind begins to shut down. He prepares to die. But on day 3, he sees something that shouldn't be possible. Through the water below him, in the corridor outside his room, there is a glow, a flickering, unnatural light cutting through the pitch-black water. 100 feet above, on the surface, a recovery team has arrived. DCN Diving, a highly specialized South African dive team, has been contracted for a grim task. They are not conducting a rescue mission. They are conducting a body recovery mission. Nobody survives 3 days underwater. The company just wants to retrieve the corpses of the crew for their families. Diver Nico van Heerden descends to the ocean floor. He enters the wrecked, upside-down Jascon 4. The footage you are about to hear about was captured live on Nico's helmet camera. It is some of the most visceral footage ever recorded. Nico swims slowly through the submerged, debris-filled corridors. It's a labyrinth of twisted metal. He swims past the engineer's office. He sees a hand floating in the water. Assuming it's just another deceased crew member, Nico reaches out to grab the hand to pull the body toward him. But as his heavy diving glove touches the skin, the hand tightens. The hand grabs him back. Nico screams in shock. The surface controller watching the live feed jumps out of his chair. "He's alive! He's alive!" the controller yells over the radio. Harrison Okene, pale, freezing, and barely conscious, lowers his face into the water so the diver can see him. After 60 hours in the abyss, an alien creature in a diving suit has found him. The footage shows Nico surfacing into the small air pocket. Harrison is hyperventilating, completely in shock. Nico gently pats him on the shoulder. Keep calm, he tells him. We are here. But finding Harrison is only half the battle. Bringing him up could instantly kill him. Because Harrison has been breathing compressed air at a depth of 100 feet for almost 3 days. His blood is completely saturated with nitrogen. If they just give him a scuba tank and swim him to the surface, the rapid drop in pressure will cause the nitrogen in his blood to violently boil into bubbles. It's a fatal condition known as the bends. It would kill him in agonizing pain before he ever saw the sun. The dive team has to act fast. His air pocket is completely toxic. They bring down a specialized diving helmet, fitting it over Harrison's head. They flood the helmet with a specific mixture of oxygen and helium to stabilize his breathing. Then, they guide the exhausted cook out of his tomb. He swims through the dark, flooded ship, past the remains of his friends, and out into the open ocean. They don't take him to the surface. Instead, they guide him into a diving bell, a pressurized metal capsule lowered to the ocean floor. Once inside, they slowly winch the Baid up to the recovery ship. But Harrison's ordeal isn't over. Once on the surface ship, he has to be immediately transferred into a decompression chamber. He spends the next 2 entire days locked inside that chamber, slowly letting his body adjust to surface pressure. When he finally steps out, the world is different. He is the sole survivor of the Jascon 4. The aftermath of surviving the impossible leaves deep scars. For years, Harrison suffered from severe PTSD. He would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, convinced his bed was filling with freezing water. He vowed to his family that he would never go near the ocean again. But humans are remarkably resilient creatures. We are built to survive, and we are built to overcome. In a twist of absolute poetic justice, Harrison Okene decided that the ocean would not dictate his fears. Years after the sinking, he returned to the water. He didn't just return as a cook. He trained, he studied, and he became a certified commercial deep-sea diver himself. He conquered the very abyss that tried to swallow him whole. Harrison Okene spent 60 hours in an underwater hell. He drank a single can of soda. He listened to the ocean devour his friends. He survived absolute freezing darkness. And the only reason he is alive today to tell the story is because when the ocean tried to close his eyes forever, he refused to blink.
Every story we cover here is real. Real people, real decisions, real consequences. If this story stayed with you, I'd love to know what you think. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss the next one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next vault.